Oh my god, let's not even start with the Angry Birds bullshit, dude.
He has nipples? That was my favorite part so far of the expansion.
3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome back to another week of Server Restart In, your weekly World of Warcraft podcast where three opinionated players get together to discuss their thoughts and opinions about the current state of the game. My name is Jim, joined by Kristen.
Hi.
And Brian.
And
we are now into week 2 of patch 9.1.
I completely forgot that I needed to go do flying, and now I have to go do flying.
So, yes, this second week would allow you to get to Covenant rank 44, which would kick off the next quest to the next Covenant campaign quest to do some stuff. And you would unlock rank 45, Covenant rank 45. And at the end of it, you get the achievement thing, with Memory of a Sunless Sky or something like that, which allows characters to fly.
Is it only on one character?
No, it is
Account-bound?
Account-wide.
Account-wide? Oh, good.
As long as they have the appropriate flying.
You screwed me up because you said you did it on 2 characters.
Well,
and I
did the campaign quest on 2 characters.
Okay.
Just because at the end of it, you also get one coloration of the Covenant mount for your specific Covenant.
Okay.
So I got the Corpse Fly and I got the Gargoyle one for Revendreth or whatever, because that's the 2 I have. What was I going to say? Yeah. But
what does Arnwild get, you know?
They get the fox dragon serpent thingy.
Oh, yeah.
Like the wildling or wilderling thing. Like there's that rare mob out in Korthia or whatever. So that is, I guess, a pretty good place to start with that quest. So you start, and it pretty much is unlocking the Vault of Secrets type thing, which is a specific area in Korthia where some the major stuff was hidden, and the main guy is talking, and it seems that the Primus hid his sigil there. So you go through a bunch of quests to divert anima flow so you can power the entrance, so you can go in there and get the sigil, and you get the sigil, but it's wrapped up in some unknown magic that they don't really know about. So you take it back to Bolvar, and Bolvar goes, this seems pretty familiar. What?
Did you not think that was awkward at all? Because he's pretty much like, I don't know what to do. Take it to the dude that maybe helped you out because it's a memory. It kind of seems like that.
Yeah, he was kind of like...
And then somebody said something about, you shouldn't take it right there in the heart of blah, blah, blah.
In Torghast, in the heart of the jailer's domain.
Yeah, and then in the end, the dude's like, why the fuck did you bring this here? No.
Right, so you take it to... So, yeah, Bolvar is like, I recognize this from spying on you when you were in the Maw, and it seems like the same stuff that the Rune Carver does, like with his memories and stuff. So you take it to the Rune Carver, he absorbs it, and he turns into, big shocker, the Primus.
Dun, dun, dun.
Right, so... And then he gets pissed at you because you brought his sigil to the one place that it didn't need to be, because now it's well within the grasp, and then the jailer shows up. So then you have to kind of fight stuff off, and then you all get stunned, and then he's like, you can't take it out without killing me, and then it becomes irrelevant. And then he goes, that's what you fucking think. And Anduin shows up, and then the Primus goes, a Morn Blade. No. And then they take the sigil and they leave.
My goodness.
So he has 4 out of 5 sigils now.
So
the whole part is at the end of the quest line when the Primus makes his way. At the end of the quest line, he makes his way back to Korthia in your little area. In Bolvar does not give a shit that he sent you to go give it to him and do any of that at all. Like there was really no point. Like, if we just kept that thing locked up, nobody would have known how to get into the vault. Like, every part of this quest line And really and truly, every part of the whole fucking expansion has been a series of
missteps and things you shouldn't
we gotta
have had.
figure something out. Oh god, that was a wrong thing. It just led to worse stuff. Like that has been the same trend nonstop.
Right.
Have you noticed that? Like,
Yeah.
or am I the only one who's just like, this is
This-
annoying?
It's yeah.
This particular quest, I mean, sure, finding the sigil before the jailer finds it, I get that, right? Because maybe we have a means of taking it somewhere where the jailer can get to it. Fuck, we could have taken it to goddamn fucking our home. I can't think of the name of the fucking planet now.
We should have took it to Argus.
No, not Argus. You could have taken it to Argus, yeah, or whatever. I mean, what the fuck is our planet called? What the fuck?
Azeroth.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my god, I need a drink.
Oh my god,
yeah.
you don't need a drink.
I haven't been drinking today. I swear. But yeah, we could have taken it to Arthas. And then like hidden it somewhere there. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's
It's not Arthas. Jesus, Jim, come
Did I say
on,
Arthas
get with
again?
it.
Yeah,
Yes,
you're
man.
having a rough day.
I
No.
That's
But-
rough.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
we could have took it to Arthas. We just don't know where he's at.
Yeah. So anyway, we could have taken it to Azeroth or Argus or fucking Outlands or somewhere like that. Now, granted, I guess the Mossworn and all that stuff can go places now because they do kind of show up, and he does have agents and all that stuff. But it would have been better than just asking the rune carver to unlock it. Why did it need to be unlocked? It had a protective magic shell around it. Why did it need to be unlocked?
Right.
I mean,
Ah,
I guess odds are if the jailer had gotten a hold of it, he would have recognized it as.
well, that too. So at the end of all this, the answer is, well, we just need to work together as all the covenants, and then once we do and we become really good at working together, then we could just make new sigils. That was the answer.
Oh.
Yeah, make new sigils for what? To lock them up
Right.
again?
I
I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Then we'll make another Zorvaal, and they'll fight each other.
oh, that would be
it's
interesting.
like a Mecha Zoval.
A little Zoval on Zoval.
Oh god, stop. Stop. Don't be playing into people's fantasies. I don't know if anybody has a fantasy
Ew.
with that though, with like them nipples and stuff.
Probably
On his
not.
chest to,
Probably not. Oh no.
But yeah, so I mean, it does seem like an odd choice to do, and they end up getting the sigil, and then the Primus is like, well, let's just leave, and then he goes, oh yeah, I'll go ahead and make a copy of the rune carver here so that people can still.
people.
And
This
so like he does.
thing that I have no idea that I even was in the first place.
Yeah, so
Stay right there.
he does that.
Hey, couldn't have made that copy like in
Yeah.
Orbos?
Right.
Just in case adventurers will get confused. Just in case all these people that don't even belong in the afterlife in the first place have also made their way down to a place
So-
where technically you couldn't get out of in the first place. You think that they might get lost when you're not there anymore to go do their legendaries. You just couldn't go ahead and head on over to Orbos and make that copy there instead.
Brian, there's only one Maw Walker. Why do we need a copy of the rune carver there if there's only one of us and we're the only person
That's
going in
fair.
there?
That's
Yeah.
fair.
I mean, it's an in-game explanation for why it needs to stay there or
Let's,
whatever.
let's be clear though, the Primus does look badass though.
I don't know.
I
His
am
face
kinda-
looks stupid. It looks like a weird goat. face.
Really?
Dang. His face looks stupid.
His face.
Like-
I
looks-
wonder if he's
Man.
I wonder if he is the. Do you remember when we looked at the concept art
he
for?
doesn't have a
I
big
think
white
it was
beard.
the jailer.
They
Okay,
were-
I didn't say he. I didn't say he was.
No, I know,
I didn't say
but
that.
it's like
I
the.
was just.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Jim. Gosh, you know everything I'm thinking, Jim. Just go ahead and talk.
Go ahead.
No.
Part of him does look like it has aesthetics of that concept art. I'm sure it's probably not. I'm pretty sure it's like, I don't know, Zorvaal before he shaved his beard or some shit. I don't know. Or they just trashed that idea once they got to a point. But yeah.
No, I don't know. Something about the way like his mouth and his face is. It looks very weird. to me,
Man.
and I just don't care.
I gotta look at it again because I don't remember now.
It doesn't look like
it
doesn't look like the statue of him. You know what I mean? It doesn't really
I
quite
feel
look.
like it was just like an old man face, but maybe I was wrong.
And I mean, maybe it's whatever. Maybe he used to have a helmet on. Maybe the statue was him wearing a helmet. Maybe when he goes back to the seat of the Primus or whatever, he'll put his armor on instead of it being sitting on this stupid statue. And then
Wouldn't it be awesome though if he was like
the bad guy,
like, oh no, like a big badass, like that nobody really, like we don't know for sure because we haven't seen him in the storyline until now.
well,
so.
I mean, he went toe to toe with the jailer for quite a bit there until Anduin showed up. I mean, they were pretty much on equal terms. He should theoretically be as strong as the jailer. All of the are they archons? The jailer, all like the leaders of the covenant, or whatever they are called.
They have names. Yeah, I don't remember what they're called.
Yeah, but all of them are technically should be theoretically equal powers. The Winter Queen. Oh my God, I almost did it again.
Yeah,
That Winter Queen.
The Winter Queen.
apply directly to the forehead.
The Winter Queen hid hers away in an attempt to whatever, and then they found it. So she didn't really directly fight, and she made copies of herself to like kind of like be a distraction. Denathrius gave his of his own free will. The Archon got surprised and stabbed. Yeah.
Surprised.
And then the Primus was the only one who actively like had it, like was prepared for it to mount some sort of defense. That and the Arbiter is like unconscious. And so like we have to protect the Arbiter. So I still want to know what the fuck happened to the Arbiter. We don't have any answer for that.
It's true.
Powered down.
Right, but like, so we were, kicking around who the Rune Carver really was, and we pretty much settled on it being the Primus. It pretty much fit kind of like the aesthetic and the models and all that stuff, and it kind of makes sense of why he disappeared and all that stuff. And so we also talked about some of the theories behind the Arbiter and what that red bolt was that knocked her out or whatever, and then possibly being the Argus world soul. So it'll be interesting to see if that ever actually gets explained, what happened with that, and if that's even relatable or related to the events. Because it'll be interesting to see how they work a world soul in, especially with it being the world soul of death, basically, right? It was like a death god almost. Or destruction, something like that. And maybe that was because Sargeras manipulated it into being such, but maybe it'll become the new jail.
Well, isn't it interesting that when you peel it back a little bit, the whole point of Sargeras in the first place was that he went crazy or whatever, trying to rid the universe of the old god influence, whatever that is, right? And that's
stuff,
so that and this stems from the void side of everything, and all these things that were stood up, right? Even like the Lich King, Ner'zhul with the Lich King, and all that stuff was set into place, absorbing. It was taking power that, like the Shadowlands had, right? And taking power away from what the potential that I guess Zorvaal or whatever had the whole time. But the reality is Sargeras was doing the right thing.
Well,
the fact that we stopped him, even though he was insane, right? The whole idea, like in invading Azeroth and all this crap, right? Obviously, Azeroth was what it has 4 old gods that have been manipulating it throughout our timeline this far.
In the plan. I don't know if they've actually corrupted the world soul, but yeah, they have been.
You know what I mean? Like it was from his perspective that was infested at that point,
right?
Because he was straight up chopping planets in half before they were even born or some shit. Like pretty much what he was trying to do to Azeroth. So in that case, like at this point, we're kind of getting to the point where it's like, okay, well, we've seen Nathrazim running around, right? We're pretty sure that like Denathrius is Nathrazim or like very heavily influenced
or the progenitor of them.
Right. There's some association there enough to say that like where does the void fit in, right? In these layers of things in terms of the universe, because when you get down to it, all this really could have been stopped if we just let Sargeras kill us all.
Yeah, but that's just it. Like Sargeras's plan was total annihilation. There's nothing. Yeah. There's nothing for the void and the old gods to mess with if everything's gone.
And obviously, that's not the answer, and the story has evolved, and that is what it is. But as you look at the timeline as a whole, it's just a series of shit where we've had to do something that has just made everything fucking worse. It really has. Like the only reason we're where we're at, it's not because this new expansion, all this shit, but it's just a series of events that have just made shit worse as it's gone along, right? And even when you look back...
Go ahead.
No, you're fine. As you look back through Sylvanas' storyline and how, what was the thing called? Edge Knight or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
When she tries...
Kill herself.
Yeah. Even going back through that and being like... I don't know. It's just hard to see the story throughout all those expansions as a series of shit that like was all meant to kind of go this direction. You know what I mean? Like a poorly threaded storyline, I guess.
But that seems to always to be the crux of like heroes and adventurers, right? It's like that's always kind of like, even when you play other games like D&D or any like other role-playing games, right? And you have a DM that actually takes that kind of stuff into account. Your actions have impacts on the world. So you do something and that you think is the correct thing to do, like you go kill these things, clear out these kobolds or something like that. But like, let's say you go clear out a cave of kobolds, right? And that's great. You've saved the town from this immediate threat, but now that the kobolds are like gone or whatever and you leave, there's a power vacuum and something worse comes in. It's like, you try to make things better, but you always seem to screw them up or cause them to take it. It's like monkeys. It's like the monkey's paw, right? It's like you make a wish and it's twisted. It's not really what you wanted.
I think a lot of it in WoW is exacerbated by the fact that like you have to put the story around the player, right? Everything that you're doing as a player in the game, unfortunately, because it's a game and it's meant to entertain you and provide value at some point, it has to be crafted around you, or it doesn't. Like, why make stories of things that don't involve some form of you, or you know what I mean, relatively.
You say that, and I think it's gotten to that point, but I don't think it was initially like that in Classic so much, right?
Right, no, it wasn't. I mean, it's funny. Somebody put a video out before, like where, like the primary antagonist or whatever of the original, or maybe we were talked about. I don't remember. Of Classic, there was just, I mean, there was a few baddies, but it was good. It was a good set of baddies, right? It's like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess Ragnaros is like kind of a bad one because he's from another plane and now he's pissed or he has some influence or whatever it is, right? That's kind of extraordinary in comparison to like VC Dead Mines, like where that like Dead Mines, that was always a good storyline, right? That was something about stonemasons and how something didn't work out with Stormwind, and then the dude
got pissed and started.
Yeah, that's a great storyline because it's very localized. It's very simple. It's not astronomical when you try to think through it or anything like that. And even Ragnaros, like in that setting, in the Warcraft type of setting or fantasy world, like elementals, that's a thing, right? In D&D and stuff like that. Like, that's a really good story to tell as long as it doesn't get too kooky, right?
Yeah.
And as long as you promise not to rehash bosses in the future. Sorry, that's kind of digressing off the original point, but I think my biggest issue is that, like, WoW had such a tremendous bandwidth with story that they could tell, right? Even concurrently, they could tell so many stories at the same time to keep people entertained. But unfortunately, we're doing like this. We're angling in,
being funneled
and cutting. Yeah, it's not even being funneled. It's that they're pushing in that bandwidth, and they're getting to the point where they're gonna like.
It's a telltale.
They're just gonna be making up shit or retconning shit, like, to the point where nobody cares anymore. You know what I mean? Because, like, you can't pass over a bunch of all the good history and all the good story, right? And how it's all worked out, right? And leaving these hooks like, what's next on the next episode of blah blah blah. Like come on. Like, that sucks. I wish you guys would have watched that video, because it just sucks. I'll stop there. Video meaning the cinematic at the end of the
right. So
right.
So there's, from what we can talk a little bit about it. We don't have to talk specifics, and it just sounds like something happened. From your reaction, something happens, but it's not definitive. There's no necessarily clear-cut answer, but like there's like, it's like open-ended and maybe open to interpretation at this point until they decide how to finalize it.
It's another very big cliffhanger, to be honest with you.
It's motherfucker.
It really is, yes. And I think I don't think there was enough closure for the amount of cliffhanger they put in either. Like,
so did they make it like an open?
Closure. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, did they make it like an open-ended thing where you could make your own, draw your own conclusion? So that way, some people who don't want to see her redeemed, and just, you know what I mean?
Majority of it isn't even about her being redeemed. I mean, but no, I don't even think. So there's two big pieces to it. One is like, well, no fucking clue what's going to happen next, which I guess isn't a bad thing to a certain extent. But unfortunately, we don't have enough previous history of this world and the characters that are in it and stuff like that to actually really know for sure where we know where we're going. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it means. Like, because it's talked about in the quest line in Korthia. And the cliffhanger is like, I don't want to say there's nothing spoilerish of it, right? I'm pretty sure, like, you could guess right now, like, what happens at the end. Mm-hmm. But that's the problem, is that there wasn't enough context there, right? There's not I don't think there's a redemption piece to it. I've heard there is, like, people think that is what it is. I don't think it is.
Okay.
But at the same time, like, it pivots. That character pivots majorly, and it's hard to understand from which perspective that's coming from, because there is an important spoiler point in there that occurs where you have to consider maybe this person changed in this moment because of this, but not really, because that happens afterwards. I don't know. You gotta see it. It's really not that big. Like the cinematic. When you watch a cinematic, you're gonna be like, "This is bullshit. This is bullshit that we had to wait this long."
Yeah.
And that's how this is all gonna wrap up. Like, this patch is gonna wrap up that way. That's so fucked up. But at the same time, it opens a big door.
Hold on.
Although we know where the door's going, but we don't know what that is there or anything like that. And I might as well just spoil it for you. I'm pretty much saying everything. So.
Here's so you go ahead.
I mean, you can. I don't care.
I won't. Yeah, Jim. I won't spoil it for Jim though.
Well,
okay.
I'm just saying, it's like you say, like, this is like wrapping up the patch. I don't know if it's wrapping up it can't be wrapping up the patch already. It's the second fucking week. There's got to be more.
No. There doesn't have to be more,
sir.
because
Everything you just did in this entire expansion thus far just is pretty much from a story perspective.
Well, look at BFA. They did the same thing with BFA where it started off the war, right? And yes, the war between us kind of progressed and everything, but they led into the old god stuff from that. So this is probably that, like, the appetizer, right? And then the main course part will be after the Sylvanas stuff. So they're doing the Sylvanas stuff was like, you know, we got the first, you know, was Battle for Dazar Allure. Was that the first raid or the second?
Second. Was older.
And this is the second one. You know what I mean? So next we'll have the main what they were building up towards. You know what I mean?
So right, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think the biggest problem is in this case is that, and it's probably the same way, right? We didn't see the Black Empire the whole time or anything like that, right? That was just that patch, right? And that was the culmination of everything going on up to that point, whether you like it or not. The unfortunate part is, for this, is that Torghast, right, in the start of this raid, I guess, where, you know, it starts at the seat of Torghast or at the bottom, right, and you're trying to figure out how to get up to do something about it. I don't know. Like, that has been such a huge focal point of this expansion. Like this is the architecture that Ice Crown was built upon. This is, I don't know, where the tips meet, you know, like this is this is where everybody gets funneled into and all the anima is pouring into and people are drawing, you know, the baddies are drawing their power from and all this stuff. And, you know, and that's like, I don't know. I hate to say too much. It's just
say it.
It's just say it.
Say
Are you
it.
sure?
Say it.
Okay. Spoiler warnings. Spoiler warnings. Fast forward 45 minutes. Okay.
45 minutes. Dang.
Just stop it now. Just go to the next episode.
Yeah, so the last, like, Sylvanas, the fight, it takes place where the Arbiter is.
Okay. In Oribos.
Zorvaal's hanging out there and you're fighting her or whatever, and he's trying to do something. I don't remember exactly what he's trying to do. I don't think I actually looked that far into it, but basically, like, he gets the last sigil. Okay. And as he absorbs it and he turns into this transformer looking dude. Like, he gets a full set of armor. His hole is sealed, kind of.
Is it the armor from the
he looks fucking badass.
Is it the armor from, like, the shadowy figure from like the launch trailer, like when they announced it, like with all like the spikes and stuff like that?
That's a really good question. I'm not absolutely sure
because but that was something we talked about, right? Was
he's got a full helmet. He's got a full set of armor. He looks like the armor from
Okay.
Well, no, he doesn't look like that. So
let me guess. Did you ever watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze? Way back in the day. Do you remember when Shredder took the mutagen and became Super Shredder? Is it kind of like that? Does he get like, is he like the Lich King on mutagen? It becomes like Super Lich King type thing?
Oh, yes. I do remember that. Dude, he was so badass. Holy shit, yes.
Is it that kind of thing? Like,
it kind of looks like that, actually, minus the purple.
Right.
No, it's it makes him look complete. Like, it makes him look like whatever they did to him originally, like, it's mending that. Like, that big ass hole, it's filled with, it's kind of bursting a little bit, his armor, but he's got, like, I don't know.
Is he like a Lich King Iron Man kind of thing?
He's like a Lich King on steroids. So, it looks, it's one of those things though. It's like, okay, well, why? Why does he, like, why did that one thing just give him armor and all this stuff? And you know what I mean? Like,
okay, well, so let's see. The armor is probably a manifestation of the power. He talked about using the sigils to unlock the knowledge of the first ones. That was the whole reason he got locked up, because they said, we don't want to do that. And he was like, no, they're hiding stuff from us. We need to access that stuff. Let's use these sigils to unlock that stuff. And that's why he originally got locked up. We know that. So now he's like, fuck you guys. I'm going to do it. And you guys can all just kiss my ass. It's all me now, you know, as opposed to doing it all together. and maybe it's just a manifestation of combining all the sigils and unlocking the power and all that stuff. And it's maybe that's why, like, the armor. Maybe he's just
Probably so. It seemed weird and came out of nowhere. That was like my biggest thing. Like that's fine.
But that
it would be a lot cooler if he just like maybe had a backpack and he started pulling stuff out. And he's like, "All right, now I got all this power. It's time to
give him a proton pack and turn into a Ghostbuster."
I don't know. Something a little less kooky, like out of nowhere. But so the sigil comes to him. He turns into Super Zorvaal, right? And then they're able to conjure up this portal that's going somewhere that people are still trying to figure out what the portal looks like. Something relevant to, I don't know, bronze dragon-ish stuff, or I don't know what they were saying. And then
like time magic type stuff.
I don't know, something like that. I don't think it is, but I think people are trying to associate what the actual like portal looks like to get some hints from it. And so then he's talking about like, this is almighty, everybody will serve me. And then he puts chains on Thrall, Jaina, and Bolvar because they're hanging out there too, not doing anything. Chains them up and they turn their eyes all turn blue, just like Anduin. And she looks over at Anduin and she's second guessing herself again. She just like fought all of us off to help him do this. And then as he's mumbling all this stuff and chaining them up, she decides to draw an arrow and try to shoot him. Because as soon as he says something about serving, then she gets memories of Arthas and somebody else about serving. I don't think it was Ner'zhul. Somebody else though. I don't know. Either way, like those voices play through, and she gets pissed and tries to shoot him with an arrow. He grabs it. She says, "I'll never serve." He says, "Pity," and unchains them, and says, "Oh no, pity." He opens up the magical afterlife portal, sticks his hand in, grabs a soul crystal out, and shoves it into her, breaks it, and puts it back into her, which we can assume that he's giving her missing part of her soul, right? That what's his name took, and she falls down. He unchains them, and he's like, "I'll leave them to decide what to do with you." But he's pretty much like, you help me find get what I was missing. Let me return the favor. Gives her soul back, and then, or completes her soul, whatever. I don't know what it is, but yeah, they get unchained. He turns around with Anduin, and they rip through the portal. And Anduin drops his dad's compass, and the picture of him in it pops up. Don't know what that signifies, other than maybe Anduin's completely done. I don't know.
Oh, I hope so. Oh, that would be so good if he's completely bad now.
When Anduin talks, I don't remember if it was in the quest line or somewhere else, but when Anduin talks through that, he sounds badass. Like, they should just make his ass the next Lich King, because I think he would do a damn good job.
Oh, that would be heartbreaking.
But at the end of all this, when they're walking towards Sylvanas, she's on the ground. She turns her head. Her eyes are blue, or her retinas are blue, not fully blue. Her retinas are just blue,
right?
Which seems to signify maybe she's
back to being a high elf,
something like that.
She's no longer a Banshee.
She struggles to say, "Don't let him reach the," bleh, and she passes out. So, and that's it. That is it. So one. Zorvaal, and that's I put in the show notes. Conspiracy Corner, where in the universe is Zorvaal San Diego? So we know from the quest line that he's going to the sepulcher or whatever thing, right? Sepulcher.
What?
Okay, so I will admit I had no idea what the fuck that actually meant.
Because they were talking about that, and I think that's in the next quest line that you need.
It is in the quest. Yeah, it's in the quest line.
There's a lot of lore in there.
but we don't know, like, it doesn't specify, like, what that is. Like, is it just some magical being that decided to shit the universe?
No, it would be a place. It's like a tomb.
No. I know it's a place, right? But it's a tomb of somebody or some bodies.
Or it's the
First
center point of death itself, right? Like maybe it's like the what do they call it? The not epoch, but like I can't think of it. Maybe it's where like it's like the wellspring of like all the death power. Maybe that's where it all animates from, and all that stuff. You know,
I don't know. Death powers. That's such a weird concept. I don't know. But anyways, that's the gist of it. I think the biggest thing for me is that there's just another cliffhanger. You know.
Well,
and the fact is, she didn't get redemption. Like,
no.
I think it's really dumb that she decided at that point when somebody said, "Oh, you're gonna serve me," you've been serving the motherfucker the whole time.
Yeah, right.
Right, and now you're gonna get pissed off about it.
Because
you could have got some ass and went with him somewhere, and been his boyfriend or something, like or brother sister thing. I don't know, whatever. Like, it didn't have to be like. What did you think was gonna happen? You were gonna like kill him, and then you were gonna take his sigils out or something, and then you and Anduin are gonna be king and queen of the fucking galaxy. Like,
so it seems,
I don't know.
Without having experienced, it seems pretty shallow and pretty not like, you know, full of enough information. Because I mean, how often do we fucking get shit where there's not really enough information, you know, and they flesh it out in like books and stuff like that. But to me, this does not seem worthy of people sending like writers and stuff like that for Blizzard death threats, because apparently that happened like immediately.
Oh, really? Oh man.
Like Christy Golden was blocking people on Twitter already. Like immediately after it comes out, like, well, it's already all started. And yeah, and it's stupid. It's like, why do people think that just because you're not happy with something that you can send these kind of threats to people? Who the fuck think that that's okay?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, if you don't like the story, you don't like the fucking story. Send a fucking email, write a strongly worded letter, something like that.
Or just deal with it. It's a fucking story.
Yeah.
Good lord.
You know,
and you
it's
don't like all the stories all the time. Yeah.
You don't get to control the narrative arc for this stuff. Granted, maybe a lot of people feel that they're not handling it well, like Blizzard itself is not handling it well, or they don't like the direction. But I mean, but that's
still a great story overall. It's just,
but that's personal opinion. Your opinion don't mean jack shit. It's not your fucking stuff. They allow you to fucking play. They allow you to play this stuff, you know. And it's just like, you know, I don't know. I think that's stupid. I think that's a dumb reaction, and I think people that do that are just. I just don't understand that mentality.
It's sad for somebody that's that. I mean, I like the story. I like the story overall, right? I like the depths of WoW's, or even the Warcraft universe in general, and kind of even how spacey, cosmosy it is. Like, don't get me wrong, I love a good story about space and aliens and all this shit, but in a fantasy type world, I don't like that mixture.
Yeah.
And this doesn't bother me. I actually don't mind it all that much. Some of it gets kind of crazy, but I think they handle it fairly well for a fantasy type setting, so it's not that bad. And I do hate some stories and the way they go, like Sylvanas. Like, the reality is, if you if you murdered that many night elves or whatever just to power this dude up, right? The reality is, you just can't easily be redeemed. Like, nobody's gonna say, well, you're just psycho, we'll send you to a few classes and see if we can get you reconditioned. Like,
yeah, this doesn't sound like a redemption. This sounds like her just
it's definitely not a redemption. Like,
not fully, not yet, at least. I mean,
it's probably going to be much worse for her than it was originally when she had nothing to pursue after the Lich King. And because at this point, like, if she has a part of her soul, whatever that, if it means she has more consciousness to the world, then she has to deal with all the bad things that she did do. And that could be much worse for a character than
Yeah, like maybe you're right. Maybe like that was like what was taken from her by Frostmourne, and she is completely whole now, and now she's going to be racked with terrible guilt, and now she's going to have to basically go live in Revendreth and to atone for her sins. Maybe that's her covenant.
Yeah, maybe
she
so.
joined Revendreth and be tortured.
I did read something about like somebody was like maybe she becomes the next arbiter because of. Well, I think the thought there was that because of the way that she was unfairly judged in her lifetime or whatever and sent down that path, that something that she would make a good arbiter to judge souls as they come through or something like that. Which in reality, I mean, that's true. I mean, she has probably one of the worst, but she's not the only one either, right? So,
right.
So
yeah.
Before I forget, I do want to jump back to kind of what, like at the beginning of this, like I had some points I wanted to make. It's like this is the second week of of 9.1, and if this is the end of the story progression, that pisses me off because it's like.
Are you talking from the questing perspective?
Like overall, right? Like if that's it, like if we've hit the crescendo here at the end of the raid, and that's the end of it. Now, granted, we haven't gone through and actually done that ourselves, so we still got a little bit to experience it and all that stuff. But if that's like just the whole point of this patch to go into the next one, I hate that. I don't like.
Yeah.
Like it's
unfortunately the quest line is to go run the raid. So, I mean, I don't know what else would.
Well, I don't know what the I mean, so there's probably going to be some more Covenant stuff, I would assume.
Is there though, or is it? They added up to 80 renown levels, but that's probably going to be all quest based, isn't it? Or like.
But no, that's fine. If there's more story stuff going on, and this is just the culmination of the story from the previous patch, from like the initial patch. Like this is the end, the stinger of that patch, and then this will probably be something that comes back in 9.2, and we'll finish out 9.1. Trying to figure out what the hell's going on and investigate it. So like it drops up off to this cliffhanger when we have to backtrack and actually work towards that. That's okay. But
that would be interesting. Yeah, I have a bad feeling that's probably not going to be the case.
It's got to be though. I mean, if this is all that leads into the next patch, kind of thing, and it's just you blew your load in the first 2 weeks. It's like that's. I mean. I'm sorry, but that is bad storytelling. When you have something where you're going to have months of people playing this game, and the first 2 weeks you've blown your load on the story stuff, that's it. That's going to be, it's going to drive people away.
Yeah, that's what I mean. In that case, like, and honestly, they really shouldn't. I really don't think they should put major cliffhangers like that on raids. I really don't.
I don't either.
Well, no, because not everybody's gonna get to it. You know what I mean? It's just like,
yeah, they should keep raids to like.
Raids should be optional story, additional story that's optional,
yeah.
like Final Fantasy does.
It really should just be assisting the story, not. Yeah. It shouldn't be the main story ever. Yeah. I don't think it should ever be the main story.
Yeah.
I mean, part of that, and we've talked about this before, and I can see in certain instances where it would be, and maybe you save main storyline raid stuff to be into the expansion, right? Maybe like the culmination of an expansion.
Yeah,
no, but then that still feels bad. You've gone through and you've played the whole patch, and then you're the person who doesn't raid, and then you don't get the payoff or the whole expansion, and then you don't get the payoff for the whole expansion like that.
Well,
that feels
but
bad.
They added LFR in there so for that reason, so that you can still experience the story stuff. So I mean, it's not
like they did before. They remember in Cataclysm, they left the scale of Deathwing over there, and you could go click it and see the ending.
Yeah, they did that for the Lich King too. In the old Dalaran in the center, you could watch the fall of the Lich King and all that stuff.
Yeah, so but, I still don't think they should have it as the raid itself. I really don't. I don't think that's. I think that they should really keep raids and dungeons as what they are intended to be. Like they're just group level content, right? Not storyline stuff. We should just be able to go in and obliterate stuff and come back out and help get to the end goal.
I think
in the story there.
I think we're all probably going to like slightly disagree on that, because I do think that certain villains deserve a raid level thing, and unfortunately, most of those villains, when you make them your main villain for a story arc, you kind of pigeonhole them into that type of content. Like the Lich King, it's like Ice Crown. Ice Crown was the last. Now, granted, again, if you didn't raid, you didn't see it and all that stuff, kind of thing. But they've made it a lot easier to do with LFR. But that raid was the culmination of the story and the culmination of the expansion. Same thing with Dragon Soul. The Dragon Soul raid was the end of Cataclysm, right? But like, they've started shoehorning it into like all the story stuff into the earlier raids, the raid tiers and all that stuff, instead of it being like Ulduar was like a side thing. You didn't need to do Ulduar, right? That was a side raid. It was a cool raid at the time and all that stuff, and it had story elements, but they were not integral to the main story.
Yeah, it was always like, especially when you go back and look through a lot of early patch raids, it was always, this zone is fighting this thing, or in this context, this zone needs our help, and that's the culmination of that area. I think that works great, right? Even if it is kind of the main story for that area, I still think that's fine. But I don't know.
Or like Battle for Dazar lore. I mean, it's just like, that was main story stuff, right? Yeah,
it's hard for me to go back and think of like what kind of context we had with regards to N'Zoth having influence throughout that entire expansion one way or another. Before 8.2, whenever the ocean opened up. I don't remember what influence there was other than like old god stuff.
I don't know. But like,
otherwise, like, it was just a war that we were battling. That's what kind of led to that point. Yeah. And while it was like primary story at the time, it wasn't the
primary story.
Yeah, it wasn't the end story. Like, that wasn't the whole point of. There was just other things going on that were contributing to that storyline.
So was it BFA is kind of you could say a bait and switch expansion anyway. It was, the premise of it was the war, but the end bad guy ended up being the old god. Whereas with Lich King, right, you go in, you know exactly where you're ending up. You are going after the Lich King. This is the push to end him, because he's, invaded again, with the Scourge invasion stuff. It's like, all right, look, we got to go deal with this threat. We do this. Cataclysm. Deathwing came out, started all kinds of crazy shit. Let's end them. BFA comes out. Oh, we're fighting each other over this stuff. There was there was very little old god influence stuff in the early story.
Right.
And that's kind of like why later on, when it started to come out, now I kind of get it, but like,
what was even the what was the catalyst for BFA? Like, we just got bored because Sargeras was locked up, and then
it was Azerite. Azerite came out, and then there was a mad skirmish between the factions.
Because of the sword,
Because then you could get the power, and whoever had the power could end the conflict between it by dominating the other, and beating them into submission, kind of thing. And then slowly, once you got into, well, I guess maybe some of the old god stuff was there, but mostly it was on the Alliance side. Because of like the Storm side, Storm Song, Lord Storm Song, and his stuff. So they had a lot more of the old god influence over there. And then you had not the Shrine of the Storm, but the 2-boss dungeon, and then the quest line with the xylitol or whatever, the Xylitath, whatever.
Xylitol sounds like it's
a prescription drug. I'm pretty sure it is, actually.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like you go do that, and then you deal with N'Zoth, and then that kind of like brought forth, and then you had the Naga invasions, right? And then, well, Ashara is aligned with the old god, and that whole 8.2 led into that, just flat out. All of a sudden, now we're switching the old gods, kind of thing, you know? And it's like that was it, and it just like was. I don't know. It just like.
I think if anything, this highlights how badly, or how bad they are at providing the full end-to-end picture of their storylines. Like, they may have good in-depth stories, but the way that it's presented to the player to help them, you know, see
it's like
how
very
they've-
yeah. It's like they do it very jarringly. It's not it's not like when you read a book and there's all this subterfuge and all these like little hints sprinkled around and then the big reveal and you're kind of like, oh my god, how did I miss that? It's like here we're doing
I think
this.
we've talked about this before. Like, they need to provide something else to help fill those the player gap. It's not a story gap. The story's there, but the player doesn't always go down the route that you really should to see the story from start to finish in an informative way. It's always like you get
there's no benefit to go out and you know, the whole point of an expansion is to get to max level and do in-game content. There's really no reward for branching out and kind of, you know, seeing what's going on, seeing where, you know, what's happening in the world and try to pick up clues and stuff like that. You know, it just really feels like when you're doing the story and as the story's presented, it's just like all of a sudden, like especially in BFA, now we're switching tracks and we're going down this track. It's like we're done here, we're going here, and like just. Go ahead.
I mean, I get what they were trying to do. They're trying to keep it interesting, right? They're trying to keep it so kind of keep us guessing a little bit, right? They don't want us to know right off the bat what they want to keep people speculating. It feels like
right, and I get that, and I appreciate.
Well, that's a problem though. Is that don't you feel like knowing that the Lich King was the big bad indie dude, like
yeah.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like to know that.
No,
like,
I did too.
No,
Yeah.
and there is something to be said for having a clear, direct goal, right? That's the bad guy. That's our main objective is to stop him, and it's gonna take time, right? But like I can appreciate also like with BFA, it's like it felt like a sudden switch and all that stuff, mainly because trying to tell very secretive and like stories and drop hints and all that stuff in an MMO in a video game is hard when you don't have any reason for people to go out and do side quests that could potentially drop hints and clues and flesh out the story more. When if all you're doing is going through like the main story stuff, and like we did all the stuff, and like even then it's like sure, you know, Uldir was, you know, they were fucking around with old god stuff, you know, and then but like the Alliance got a lot more of the old god stuff based on just like the Tide Sages, and we saw some of that when we went over there, but not quite enough. So you see the old god influence, but sure, it's like I don't know, it just the main story just kind of felt like it just was making hard turns, and it wasn't like a subtle shift with this realization dawning on, and it's just like you're gearing up, and it's like great, you know. And Kristen didn't like the whole concept of Alliance versus Horde.
I hated it. That was what killed BFA for me.
And so, like, a lot of people are probably tired of that rehash, and that was like the main focus for a whole bunch of patches, right? And
that's why, like, it really should never be the main focus because the whole core part of the game is Alliance versus Horde. Like,
I mean,
if it's already there, don't make more of it. Like, the struggle of it being there. Well, I'm saying, like, the struggle of it being there is that we have these other problems we have to deal with in the world and have to live in it, but we still have this conflict that we can never get over. Just because, like, some people, like, in the fantasy world, there's always going to be people that want to be done with it, like a Thorol and Jaina situation. And there's always going to be people that don't want to be done with it, like a Garrosh and
Greymane.
the Greymane, yeah. Like,
Yes.
so, that is what it is. Let it just be there, right? That's the core part of the game. That's what makes the game what it is at its base level. That can exist. Now build upon it. Don't focus back on it.
Unfortunately, they were trying to make it, and I guess it was maybe really leading up to this expansion, right? It's like, well, they're trying to funnel all these souls into the maw, right, to power the jailer. What's the best way to do that? A senseless war. And what did we have to deal with? A senseless war. So if you take a step back and don't look at it through the lenses of we're in BFA and we're dealing with this bullshit and we don't know what's coming next. But if you look back, you can kind of see how, okay, narratively, it makes a lot more sense about why it happened. Because Sylvanas was probably already in league with the jailer. And then here's this power source. It's going to give her a way to really start killing a shit ton of people and all that stuff. Let's stoke the war. Let's get this war going. Because you look at it and like the Horde leaders weren't really into it other than her. And Gallywix because he could make a profit and all that stuff. And maybe the one from some like the Maghar Orc leader, she was kind of okay with it because that's all she knew in her life was war kind of thing. But for the most part, people were tired of it, but like they couldn't not, so it kind of makes more sense. It's like they're just trying to churn up a body count so she can get this stuff because she didn't care about anything on Azeroth anymore. She wanted to get her soul back and break the cycle of death, whatever. I don't know.
She didn't want to exist in the mall for the rest of eternity. That was her thing.
Yeah, so that makes it... So if you take a step back and look at it, yeah, at the time, it was trite and it was annoying and it was not entertaining and it just like... And it's an unfortunate side effect of trying to get to where we're at now. And so, I don't know. It sucks as a player to have to deal with that because you don't know, unfortunately. You don't know what the payoff is, why it's going down this route, why the game developers and writers decided to do this again and stuff. But
I think the biggest thing... Yeah, the biggest thing for like BFA, in my opinion, now knowing all this, right? Because that's, obviously the reason all this has occurred was to feed what's his nuts in the mall. That's still annoying because now it's like all this effort boils down to like this dude getting his power and walking through this portal to do something. Like he's not done yet. There's some end goal that he has to achieve to say whether or not we fail, right? And we're not there yet. But the reality is like this expansion, the last expansion, right? And then even a big part of Legion, because that's when Sylvanas started skipping around, with no idea what she was doing for the most part. And all that leads up to this, like, and I don't know, then you start questioning the expansions before that and like how that has influence on what is going on now. Right. And now that's kind of cool if they threaded that the whole time. That's pretty cool. Okay. Right. That's really cool. But at the same time, like you kind of can see where it breaks down a little bit and not break down in a bad way, but break down where you realize that it's okay. Let's tell this story, but we need to go back and make sure it aligns to these events.
Right.
To tell it effectively and have it thread into the main story.
It's not even that too. It's like they don't necessarily they know the big main points that they want to hit, right? With the story. They know the big major events that are going to happen, but the stuff in between they don't necessarily know. Because wasn't Juan Samdi supposed to be like a minor character? They had to change his role in BFA because he was such a fan favorite. There was something else that happened that changed like how the story was going to go in the next patch.
Oh, Denathrius. They wanted him to come back.
Yeah, he was going to die.
He was going to, yeah.
But his
voice actor was so good.
The character was just so charismatic. People were like, well, he can't die.
Yeah.
And so that's why he's trapped in the sword, now.
Oh.
So it's just like there are they are not just writing story anymore. They're planning out like the big major points along the way, and some things can change based on how the players react to things, and that's cool in a way, but it also makes it really hard to kind of know what's going to happen. And so it makes it hard for them to kind of, plan way further out how things are going to go, because if they're planning for a character to not be there and his death to cause something, but then they decide not to kill him, how does that impact something down, later down the line? So it's got to be rough. That's got to be a really hard way to. That would be like if George R.R. Martin, writing Game of Thrones, released a book and had all this stuff planned out, and then decided that after like the first book came out, obviously it came out way before.
He wasn't horny anymore.
What? I didn't hear what you said.
He said after the first book came out, then he wasn't horny anymore.
Yeah. So, but like, let's say like a character got killed in the first book, or was a popular one, but he was planning on killing him off in the second one, then he changed it. That would be really hard to do as an author if you did it that way. And so you have to think that the people writing for World of Warcraft don't necessarily get to plan things out and develop characters and plan events for them necessarily as in-depth as they used to. Because if that's, what I mean? It's like that's like their tactic now. It's an interesting way to do it, and it can have some benefit, and sure, maybe these voice actors are going to be happy that their characters are being kept around because then they're still on the payroll,
Yeah.
Which is good. They still got work kind of thing. But, it's just, I don't know. It makes it a lot less cohesive almost, I would think, or harder to plan out. And maybe that's going to be why.
Not to mention, again, like we said earlier, the story wasn't as heavy in the beginning of the game as it is nowadays. So that adds even more complexity to it whenever you want to make sure you're appeasing the audience, not doing everything for the audience, but keeping it, you know what I mean? Like, 'cause the audience should steer a little bit of where it wants to go, right? They should be able to gauge how much, players enjoy the story, right? And I don't think they should have to change every single thing, like, but to a certain extent, they should gauge how the audience enjoys stuff.
Yeah.
Before we stop, last thing before we stop, the quest line for the Primus, when Zorvaal appears right after he unrune carvers into the Primus, he calls him brother.
Yes, and I don't know if their tech, did they call each other relatives like that, or do they just refer to each other in a familial sense, like like brethren?
I don't think so. I feel like
they're
whenever
probably
it
all
was going,
related.
Maybe so. Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
I mean, and maybe it's not like familial, like like we have sisters and brothers because we're born from the same parents. Maybe it's because they were created by the same creators at the same time, and
maybe so.
like a pantheon of gods aren't necessarily, if they were created, like the Titans were all created and they're technically related, but maybe it's just kind of like that thing. I don't know.
Maybe so.
Yeah,
I just thought it was interesting.
So,
brother. At least the jailer has shoes now. That's all that matters.
Oh, he has shoes now? Good. No dirty feet.
Yep.
Are we not going to talk about Torghast?
No, I think we can go on for a little bit if we can talk about Torghast for a little bit. Just
because that was my favorite part so far of the expansion.
That's the only part she's done.
It's the only part I like.
So,
the only part I like.
Have you run Torghast a few times?
I ran it twice last week, but I don't remember anything significant.
I feel like they listened to us. So
they added cosmetics.
Yeah.
They added cosmetic shoulders, which it seems like right now all that's in there is shoulders.
Yeah.
I think I got a pet too.
I got a pet, yeah.
But so like you can get cosmetics from the end. You can buy them for Phantasma, which is a trade-off. If you're going in there just to farm the things, you can spend it on that.
I bought it all.
but it would be nice for them to put more ones in there as like different seasons come out or whatever,
Yeah.
or maybe like every couple of weeks or every month change it to a different thing. I don't think anything's been like data mined for that.
It's Torghast. They should anything that exists in the world or hell, the universe, okay, that we've experienced so far should appear there sometimes, like the black market auction house.
Oh yeah, that would be really cool. That would be very cool. I mean,
I guess technically your armor and shit doesn't go with you to the Shadowlands, but
I mean,
fuck you. That sounds like a good idea.
yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a good idea too. I really like the fact that we have a talent tree that we can.
Yeah,
like,
so is the cube,
I really
the
like
cube of
that.
knowledge,
Yeah,
or whatever, the knowledge cube that you can
like
put
it.
I
stuff
feel
in.
like you read it wrong and you put too many points in one thing because you thought it was all the same amount and actually goes up once you click it.
It does go up once you click it. Yes.
It costs more.
Yep.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I can get this. Okay, I'll get that twice and I'll get that one. All right,
Yeah.
sweet. Click, you're done. Oh shit.
Yeah, you gotta plan it a little bit. You gotta think a little bit about what.
And right now, I think there are weekly caps on how much of the stuff that you can get, so you can't
There
like
is.
farm
Yeah,
and
there
fill out the
is.
tree and all that stuff
Yeah.
and whatnot, which is fine. They want to kind of like they
Weekly
want.
cap, not an overall cap, just a weekly cap.
Yeah.
Well, I think what it
Well,
is
they
the
wanna
overall
make-
cap increases as the weeks go on.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you
does it have
can
an overall cap too?
what?
It has an overall cap too.
Yeah, you got like that cap is like the first week it was 120, and now it was like 540 or something like that. So even if you
Oh.
saved it over, you started with 120. You didn't start back at 0. There's
Interesting.
only so much you can have. So what they're doing is they're controlling the power that you can
Yeah.
increase at, so that you can't necessarily just like completely overpower
Overpower
everything.
everything.
So fast, which is okay. I'm okay with that because it's like you're not meant to be doing necessarily 5-star runs on like layer 10 right this week, right?
Oh my god, let's not even start with the Angry Birds bullshit, dude.
What?
As soon as I didn't get 5
gems?
stars. Yes, as soon as I didn't get 5 stars and I freaking completed the whole damn thing.
Yeah,
What
that's
the fuck is
frustrating.
going on?
What did
What? It doesn't tell me what I needed to get 5 stars.
Yeah, it does. If you
mouse
click
over it.
click on it, you can right click on it and it drops it down. It gives you the completion. It gives you the empowerment thing. It gives you the par times. If you mouse over it, it'll.
So maybe it's a timing thing. Maybe I didn't see that.
So the faster you do it, the higher your score will be, right?
Which I don't like
God.
that. I think that's super shitty. I hate
because
things with time
stars
components.
dictate how many cinders you get.
Yeah, and not only that, it favors classes that are not the slow and steady classes, but the frickin' stupid speedrunning classes like Demon
And that
Hunters and
takes-
shit like that. And I hate that. I feel like that feels bad.
That was good in the first place. Like the fact that you could go in and at your own pace get through it, right?
Yeah.
Other than dying count, like before. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, eye for an eye, I guess. We got some good stuff, but they put some bad stuff in too.
But to be fair, right now you just need a 4-star instead of a 5-star to unlock the next layer.
Right. And so,
So-
5 stars kind of like for people that want to go in and optimize it and try to get the fastest times and all that stuff. Because even if you go in and you do it super fast, you're going to get knocked for not having completion bonus. Because the people that do those speed runs are skipping shit.
Yeah.
They're not going in on Demon Hunters and killing everything super fast. It's like that would be
Well, they are because
no, they're skipping to the ends and killing the floor bosses and
that would
moving
be
on.
rogues. That would be rogues that do that mainly. Demon Hunters don't do that. They still have to kill stuff.
Right, but they don't have to kill everything.
Right.
They can skip around.
I
stuff
can
like
even
that.
skip quite a bit
Yeah.
on my
I mean,
warrior.
But that removes, you lose score for that. So just by going in and doing it faster, that's a trade-off right now. So if you're not completing everything, you're not going to build up your empowerment bar as fast because you're not going to be killing as much stuff. You're not going to be killing all the urns and doing all the treasure chests and stuff so your completion component is going to be lower. So you're going to lose points for that. You're not going to get as many points. Sure, you may get more points for doing it faster, but that's not going to necessarily outweigh the completion bonus and the empowerment bonus, right? So there is a trade-off. So just because you're doing it fast, way under par, doesn't mean that you're going to automatically get 5 stars, right? It has to be a balance of it, and that's what the tree is for. The tree is going to make you more powerful. Like, we already got the one with the auto loot. That took time off of our runs because now we don't have to stop and loot, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we got the blessing stuff. We got a good blessing one time that gave us, you know, it reduced the floor boss health by 30%, the damage they do by 30%, and all this other stuff, right? So they die faster. That's gonna
They died pretty fast anyway, usually.
Yes, but in the beginning, maybe not. Like on the first 2 floors, maybe not quite so much because we haven't got the right powers yet. You know, powers are still a crapshoot. You know, you can still get shitty powers, and that's going to impact your stuff. But even though we still did 3 or 4 stars on the
we 4-starred the 9.
Even with the death, no, we did 3 stars on the 10.
3 stars on the 10
because I died a bunch.
That's right. Oh, that's right. I died a bunch.
Oh, and something they added in patch 9.05 or whatever, they added it to Venari. It's a teleport beacon thing.
I bought that, by the way.
Yeah. Buy it because like those chains things,
you can skip the.
It's
going
a
up
portal
and down
that'll take you up to the top without having to walk up the chain.
Yep.
It gives you a little broker portal in there.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
I didn't know that was a thing, and I must have bought it. And I had this thing, and we were on one of the ones that's got like the 4 balconies.
And he's like, "Just take the portal."
I'm like,
and I'm
there's
like,
a portal. There's a
what
power
portal? I'm like, I don't see a portal.
Like,
there's
it's a
no
portal right here. I'm standing in front of it.
I'm like, look at my
that was
screen.
She sold that didn't give enough context as to what it did.
Well, it was also something they added in 905, and I don't think we were doing much Torghast at that point. Anyway, you know what I mean? It's like that was kind of a little bit later.
Yeah, because I do remember using them, but yeah, that's funny.
I hadn't. Like I think at that point I was just logging into Raid, maybe even that.
But that helps, right? So as you get these things build up, you're gonna be faster and faster, and maybe you know, for like the highest level that's available. Maybe you still won't be able to 5-star, but it'll allow you to go back and do 5-star on the lower levels.
Yeah.
You know, a lot easier, you know, because it's just, I don't know, it's a balance. It is, you know, you can still get high scores by doing everything, and you're going to get faster the more powerful you get and all that stuff. So that's going to, you know, as you go up, but just going through and just a rogue going through and skipping everything and doing it, you know, 5 minutes under par isn't going to get a 5-star. There's absolutely no way because they're not going to have, it's not going to outweigh the completion bonuses.
The important point is that, like you said, we called it. Okay.
Yeah.
We did Angry Birds Torghast a long time ago, and we called that shit. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's just, and they, you know, they put in more cosmetic. They put in rewards, so there's a little bit of a reason to go in and do it.
I'm sad that it's only shoulders right now, but maybe it's a start, right? It's a start. I like that. I think that's good. That is a reason to go in and do it. If you like cosmetics, which I do, then that is a reason to go into it. You know what? Go in there and put in augments to spells. You know what I mean? Like the green fire thing. Right, for other classes, go in and I mean, it's like more work.
Spell team logs.
It's more work on Blizzard's part, but you know what? Your fan base is going to appreciate it because they like to collect things.
Yeah,
you know.
The only thing I think that's bad about it right now is that it is just shoulders.
Yeah,
and it's only like I don't know how many there are. So, but you can probably get
I've
them
gotten
all.
like 3 or 4 so far.
I've gotten like 8 of them already.
Oh well,
that many.
I bought them. I would get powers like 300 fans. Like,
no.
go to the vendor, get an orb, throw it
that's
down.
Probably why
get
you
300
were dying
more
so
Phantasma.
Much.
No, it's not why. I was over pulling, but no. But I feel like this is a better system than it was before.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to necessarily. The transmog stuff isn't going to necessarily add that much more replayability to it because it's going to be fairly easy to get them all.
There's a little bit there. I felt like I wanted to replay. I mean, I wanted to keep going on Torghast just to collect some stuff. So I like because I enjoy Torghast, like we said before. I enjoy Torghast a lot, actually.
Me too.
It's just the amount of value that you get back from it, because at that point, like, even if there was a scoreboard, I might play a little bit more, because at that point, it's just like playing a regular video game.
Yeah, I don't know if that is in there or not. I don't know if there was like a weekly best thing. I thought I saw something about that.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I didn't pay attention.
But
I didn't.
But getting a higher score too is something that you can work for, and it's a reason to go back in, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like you hit 4 stars, right? And you look at the score and you go look over and you go, well, okay, this is how many points it gave me. This is how many points to get a 5-star. I was like 5 points off. All right, let me try that again. Right. You know what I mean? That's going to drive some people to replay it. So I think that's going to drive some replayability, because there's probably an achievement for getting 5 stars on all of them.
Sure.
And, you know,
it would be nice if there was an achievement for getting 5 stars
I think there
on all
is,
of them.
But I think it's something that it's going to take a while to work at, and that's fine. You know, but that's a goal, and that gives you a replayability, because especially the fact that they give you they fixed it, because I think when I was doing it in the PTR, the score thing would come up and it would stay up for about 5 seconds and then it would go away. Oh. And I'm like, well, I wanted to look at this.
Right.
Now it'll stay. Even if you exit, it stays until you actually close it. But it gives you information, it gives you feedback, so that you can look at it and you can go, okay, this is where I can make some improvements. Like, oh, I missed some stuff. I got to be a little bit more eagle-eyed about trying to find everything I need to kill to get a completion.
Yeah, that happened to us a couple of times.
Well, we did the 3rd floor, and it was the one where you run up the chains to get the...
and we skipped to the chains on that one. That's right.
Right, and so, like, we didn't...
Were there portals for those?
For me, there were, yeah.
Oh, son of a bitch. Well...
So we only got 25% completion on the 3rd floor.
Yeah, that's true. That's right.
Which there's no enemies. Yeah. There's no reason for that.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that was part of it.
I was thinking it, but at that point I didn't care, because I was ready to be done with it.
You were frustrated and you were ready to be done, yes.
Yeah.
So, but it gives you that feedback, so you can look at it and go, okay, I need to fix something. I need to tweak things. I can make some improvements here or here, and that's a good thing, and that's good, because like I did a couple runs on my shaman. I think I was only doing layer 8, maybe just to
test it out,
just to see what it was like, and I wasn't really having that much problems with it. And that was solo on a Resto shaman. So it's like, okay. And I think I did. I think I 3-starred like the ace or whatever.
Didn't they make it easier for they had in the past made it easier for tanks and healers?
Right, they had done that a while ago.
Yeah.
So I mean,
yeah.
But I wasn't sure how this new stuff was going to play out, and I kind of figured out too that you should probably use the empowerment sooner instead of saving it, so that you could potentially get more of them in.
Yeah. I kept forgetting to use it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they used to have a cast time to start it, and I think they took that away. So now it's like pretty much you hit it and it's insta-cast, which is good. But I think it's one of those things you build up and use it, build up and dump, so that way you're not wasting it.
Yeah.
Which we were saving it for sometimes,
but we didn't need to. We also forgot to use our phantasmic infuser, too, because we're dumb.
But all right. So Torghast is a really big improvement. It's great. It's nice. So we're all kind of in agreement with that. It's not perfect. Definitely not perfect.
It's a step in the right direction.
But yes.
I think.
So.
All
right. So anyway, thanks everybody for listening. We talked about 9-1. Talked about some story stuff. Talked about Torghast. Talked about, Zorvaal's beefy boy armor. And... Anyway,
his nipples. He finally covers his nipples.
He has nipples?
He covered his nipples. He had nipples the whole time.
Had nipples.
Anyway,
okay.
You can check us out at facebook.com/server-restartin. You can shoot us a tweet at server_restart. And catch you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.